I've been to Fashion Week in St. Petersburg, not yet in Moscow, and I have seen some designers who strike me as being very talented. Unfortunately, I'm not able to dredge the names up from my flawed memory at the moment, but there was one middle-aged woman who did some very, very beautiful and sophisticated fashion, and then also a young woman who was doing some very hip and interesting fashion that I actually purchased a couple of pieces. I think I would need to know more about the most advanced cultural trends in Russian society to be able to anticipate whether the breakthrough in Russian fashion would come, say, in menswear, women's wear, casual clothes, or high fashion. But I do think the key is that you need to have the creators, the clients, and the whole kind of network of people working together. And there, for example, I do think that the recent anti-homosexual initiatives in Russia have been very negative. Of course, there are heterosexual male designers as well as many women designers, but internationally, gay people have played such an important role in fashion. It really seems like a step backward for Russians to be making this movement, which, you know, you see it in really backward countries in the world. You don't see it in countries that are modern. I think that historically Russia has been at the edge between Europe and Asia, and the Russian self-image does incorporate both, that it's significantly different from Western Europe. And the fashion world craves difference, it craves something new. So I think that also augurs well for there being a receptivity to Russian fashion in the future. The first key thing, I think, is for Russian designers not just to think of conquering Paris, but to think of really building a cohort within Russia. We saw this with Japanese fashion, which transformed the world in the 1980s, Belgian fashion, which infiltrated Paris in a big way in the 1990s, and I think we're starting to see it elsewhere as well. You need to have a system of fashion education which is lively so that you can keep growing, not just from a few big name designers, but really have a cohort of younger designers coming up who can fill all the roles within the fashion system. That's really tricky. The whole business of fashion education is complicated. And I think for that you need also to have a considerable cultural freedom so that young fashion students can feel free to express themselves. The whole issue of national style is so problematic. On the one hand, it can easily fall into stereotypes. You know, America is just blue jeans and, you know, London is crazy punk kids. There are elements of truth in that. For example, there are different attitudes towards color, towards modesty, etc. But increasingly, I think there's also a sense that young people especially are part of a global community. It's a community of affinities. What do you love? What kind of music do you listen to? What do you want to do with your life? That's not so much connected with your national heritage as it is with your affinity groups. And so I think that although there are still clear national differences, it's all too easy to just reduce them to stereotypes, which in fact have very little to do with the fashion that most of us wear.